Well, Peter, I think, ever since we did the 401k Act in '87, the world of retirement has changed.
Is there a time and a place or a case for annuities? We'll talk about it today with John Kirkendall, president and founder of Gulf Coast Financial Services. Of course, Gulf Coast Financial has been named best of the best in financial services 10 straight years, concurrent and running, by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, voting them in that category for financial services. And John Kirkendall always keeping us financially focused here on the program. So, the merits of annuities, the value of guaranteed income in retirement, John, I think have been debated. And in some cases, there is probably truth, as with many things, on both sides of the debate. Where do you fall on the case for including annuities as part of our financial picture?
Well, Peter, everybody's different, but there is a case for annuities in certain situations. And, one of the things that we use annuities for a lot is the hybrid for the long-term care, because we can double that lifetime income for 5 years to help pay for at-home care or facility care. So I think that annuities have a place. Unfortunately, they have a really bad rap. And in the old days, it was true. They used to be expensive. They used to be hard to understand. They used to be horrendous upfront charges that the insurance agent got paid. All of that has changed, Peter, to where they are now simpler, easier, and they're a better product than they've ever been, I personally believe.
Well, I believe the public is also believing that, as for the last several years, I I have seen where annuities have had record sales. 2024 over 432 billion, according to LIMRA and Nerd Wallet articles that I'm looking at, and each year it looks like 2022, 23, and 24 all were concurrent consecutive record years for deposits that savers and investors are putting into annuities. Is this simply because we have more assets now than ever before, or are annuities playing a role that we are finding needed and absent for retirees?
Well, Peter, I think, ever since we did the 401k Act in '87, the world of retirement has changed. I mean, the best generation for retirement was the generation prior to the boomers, because they had defined benefit plans that gave them a monthly income that was predictable, sustainable every month, and in addition to their Social Security benefits. And if we look at those individuals, the clients that I had, that was their situation, they were living great retirements. Most of them were saving money, actually investing more of their monthly paycheck. And it was a great retirement for them. But now, as we look at the boomers, we go into retirement with a large pool of assets that are invested in the market, because that's what the 401ks are. And we have our Social Security checks for the present, but we don't have that retirement plan that allows us to leave our assets that are in this market, leave them alone in times when the market is down. And so if we have that bridge, I think that a private pension that we can do with annuities, giving us that monthly sustainable check that lasts forever, as long as you live, is the way to go. And so, as we look at the bucket approach to retirement, we always have an immediate bucket, which is cash, CDs, money market accounts. We have and you have the growth bucket. So the growth bucket is your assets that are in the market that we don't want to touch in a down market. So we need that pension added to that Social Security.
John, you mentioned that annuities used to have a bad rep and deserved it. Do annuities still deserve that bad reputation? Are there
Yeah,
qualities of annuities that do?
I think there are qualities of annuities, there are qualities of companies. we have we have evolved to where the products have become low cost, have become easy to understand, and there are different kinds of annuities. As you know, we have fixed annuities which pay a fixed rate for a certain period of time. Then we have the fixed indexed annuities, which are like that, but also have an index, have the ability to be in the market. So you can't lose your principal, but you can get market gains. And then we have variable annuities, which are totally in the market, and you get what the market gives you, but you also have to take the losses with that. And so, annuities have evolved. I talked to a prospect this week, and I never got to explain to her what annuities are. She asked me, she said, do you sell annuities? And I said, well, we offer annuities. And before I could say anything else, she says, that's fine. I don't need you. So, I mean, that's the stigma we have is that people think annuities are bad, that they're high cost, hard to understand, and have huge surrender fees.
But
And
Social Security is an annuity. Pensions from a
yes,
company are
sure,
annuities, right? And
sure.
I don't think anybody's turning away those checks.
No, and you're right. A defined benefit plan, when you retire, they figure out an annuity of how much they can pay you based upon the amount of money you have in the pension plan. And so it is an annuity that gives you a paycheck every month. Why we wouldn't want to build our own instead of relying on the ups and downs of the market as we're pulling money out. We've talked about that sequence of return, whereas if I'm pulling money out of my accounts in a down market, my money's going to run out faster than if didn't have to pull it out and could pull it out in good markets and let it grow, then it will last longer. And so that concept we know has been proven, and annuities give us that ability, Peter, but not everybody needs an annuity. But there are a majority of our clients that we look at in retirement, and it's a great way to give them that pension check every month. But it's also a good way to help hedge the cost of long-term care, which Medicare is not going to pay for. And as you know, we don't know what's going to happen to Social Security in the future.
How do we know if an annuity is right for us or if it's a value worth considering?
Well, I think we have to look at our assets and how much we have, how much there are certain strings to annuities, such as a surrender period. We can put our money out, but we can't get it back for a certain number of years without taking a penalty. If we're under 59 and a half, we've got to remember that an annuity is a long-term investment because we can't start taking income until after 59 and a half. So it's kind of like a IRA in that regard. The income is deferred until we start taking it out, so it has some tax advantages. So if an individual has a tax problem, it's a good way to take some of the money out of an individual account or a non-qualified account, one that's not an IRA, and put it into an annuity and let those assets grow tax deferred. And so we pay the taxes on the gains when we take it out. So it just depends on the individual situation. You don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. So it's not like if I've got $200,000 in retirement fund, I'm not going to stick all 200,000 in an annuity. There's a fine line between we have to work out the retirement plan and figure out what your individual goals are and how we're going to get those accomplished.
And it doesn't happen often, John, and there are different mechanisms of layers of protection in place, but you always want to make sure you're dealing with a good, stable, reliable company when you are dealing with annuities or insurance and when you're dealing with the person who is helping you shop for which company might be the right fit for you, right?
Well, that's right, Peter, because these are issued by insurance companies and quasi guaranteed by the insurance company. Now we have the SIP, we have the insurance fund, each state that backs it up, but it only backs it up. I think it's for $250,000. So we have to be careful. We have to make sure that the insurance company is strong enough and they're going to be able to pay their claims. So we also need to know how the annuity works, Peter. I mean, like I said, there are components. I'm going to be able to invest in the market, but have my principal guaranteed by the insurance company. So, what are my options? What are the strings that I'm going to have to caveat through this thing? But I need to understand what I'm getting. So, you need to have somebody that's going to educate you on the ins and outs of annuities and why the annuity works. Like you said, Peter, I don't think anywhere can you get a private pension anymore unless we were to define benefit plan without doing an annuity.
John, I listen to the weekend radio lineup all over. I'm hearing people talk about the upfront bonuses with annuities that you get a match, you get this upfront bonus when you make a deposit. Um, Not that it's a bad thing. No, who doesn't want some free money or a match on their deposit? But you mentioned the time commitment with annuities. Is the bonus the most important thing, or do we need to consider the time commitment compared to that bonus and then what we get at the end of the time rather than what happens on day one?
Well, I think, Peter, there are a lot of things we need to look at. One is we shouldn't be sold into something just because of the bonus. It may not be the right product for us. It may be a 10 or a 15-year surrender period, and you may not want to have your money tied up for that long. You need to find out, what the payout rates are, how this company in the past has paid out their claims. Do they have high payout rates based upon age? We need to know also, Peter, that the components within the product are such that we can make money. We don't want it so that I'm getting a bonus, but there's no way in the world I'm going to ever be able to make anything on these indexes because my caps and participation rates are so low. So there are, like I said, there are caveats, moving parts to this. It's just like buying a Cadillac. You go down and you buy the car, then you take it home and you find out, well, it didn't have a sunroof, or it didn't have cooled heated seats. You need to understand the concept behind the annuity and then make sure you get the right one for you. Now, one misconception is, and I've heard it over and over again, is that my annuity guarantees me 7%
Mm.
or 8%. Your annuity may guarantee you that, but it's based on the income when you decide to take it out. So your annuity is going to grow a minimum of 8 or 7, whatever the index, whatever the number is, per year until you take it out. And then, but it's not that my balance is growing that much, and then I can pull that cash out.
There's a difference between the lump sum growth
Yes.
and then the calculation for your future income payments that you
Right.
can potentially take. And that's
Right.
an important distinction. Like, be very clear on these things. And John, like you mentioned with the Cadillac, the nuts and bolts, they matter here, right? I think very few people probably could explain every detail of the inner workings explained in the prospectus of their mutual fund, right? Is that
Yeah.
mutual funds are also pretty complicated when you get into the nuts and bolts. But what's not complicated about a mutual fund is if you want to get out of it, you sell it at the end of the business day, right? And where annuities, because they are long term, because there are restrictions and these caveats, you may want to really examine those nuts and bolts and make sure that you have clarity on them a little bit more carefully.
Right. And Peter, we have two components we're looking for. One is that we can have an annuity that's not that is for growth. In other words, all I'm doing is accumulating assets, and that we can have an annuity that is set up for income. So I want the best income product. Over here, if I'm just looking for growth, I want the best growth product. We want to make sure that, we understand. It's like, as we talked about the Cadillac, am I going to lease the Cadillac for 10 years, or am I going to release it, or am I going to lease it for 7 years? How long am I going to be in this? And what is my goal and my ultimate objective?
And what are the right goals and objectives that we would want to fill where an annuity is the right consideration? I mean, you've named a few, I think, here, but go over that list again and summarize for us.
Well, Peter, I think if we're looking for income, if we're looking for a way to bridge long-term care, which the Medicare doesn't pay for, if I'm looking for, do I want to be at home and have that an annuity pay that income doubler at home, or do I want to be in a facility? Do I care? So there are different components that way. I think, it's based upon your needs. Do I need income, or am I looking for a way to diversify my portfolio so that my principal is guaranteed by the insurance company, but I can I can accumulate more assets in the market without the risk. So is it income or accumulation? Am I looking to pass money on to the grandkids? Am I looking, what's my ultimate goal, and how am I going to work that out? And Peter, without that financially focused income plan that we put together, you really can't determine all that, because when we work that plan out, there's usually a gap. In other words, at some point in time, I'm going to run out of money. Normally when one spouse passes away, or just because of market conditions. So how am I going to bridge that, and how can I tweak it so that I know that I can have income coming in, and that will last during my retirement?
Well, there are good, bad, and ugly features for almost every option for where you can place your money. Annuities are simply one of those many, many options. And the strength most often, John, is in the predictability, either for protection against losses or the income generation into the future. And sometimes the rates can be attractive, but you do need to know the drawbacks. Again, where there's a benefit on one hand for any financial vehicle, there is always a drawback, because any $1 or any one investment tool can only have so many strengths. They're going to lack somewhere else. Growth, safety, liquidity, income. You're always sacrificing somewhere to get some other quality. So that's what diversification is all about. And that's what you help people outline in that financially focused written retirement plan.
That's right, Peter. That's what we're looking for, is diversification. But we're also looking at the needs of the client. We want to make sure that if they're going to need liquidity in 3, 4 years, that I'm going to have that liquidity there. What are the special needs they're going to have, and how am I going to get it? If I tie up all of my money in one vehicle, then when I need to move and maneuver, I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. And so the plan gives us the ability to have the retirement that we're trying to have, and at the same time understand the products that make up my diversification, whether it's annuities, mutual funds, ETFs, whatever it is. We want to make sure that we explain it. As you said, they're all different. They all have different caveats. And like I said, I can't just go down and say, give me a Cadillac. I've got to look at what I want on that Cadillac, what I'm trying to do with it. Am I going to take it off road? I don't want a Cadillac. Maybe I want a Subaru. So, I need to know what I'm doing so I can get the right product.
Gulf Coast Financial Services offers personalized planning with long-term vision and diversified strategies, ladies and gentlemen. Access to the spectrum of the financial world and personalizing the plan for clarity for you. That is the financially focused written retirement plan. If you would like to get that put together, pick up the phone, give them a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. On every episode of Financial Focus, we talk about different topics and aspects of the financial world, but always wrapped by reminding you that you've got a resource and giving the offer to put together for you that financially focused written retirement plan. John, you've helped so many proactive savers and investors map out and document their goals and how to get there, but so many more need that help. That's why you continue to offer the financially focused written retirement plan, and remind folks that while quitting is for winners, retirement is not for wimps.
That's true, Peter. It's complicated. I mean, there are so many components and so many things and so many traps that I'm trying to avoid just getting into retirement, that I need to have that plan in order to give me that roadmap.
Well, if you would like that roadmap, the financially focused written retirement plan, give John Kirkendall and Gulf Coast Financial a call. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, always appreciate the time. Thank you for being here.
Subscribe,
Thank you, Peter.
share,
Good
and
to see you.
tune
See you
in
next
for
week.
more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kirkendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. has been named as Best of the Best since 2015 in the category of Best Financial Advisor in the Lake City, Florida area. The award was based on receiving the most votes in this category from a survey offered and tabulated by the Lake City Reporter. No direct or indirect compensation was provided to the Lake City Reporter and/or any raters, and the award is not contingent on future direct or indirect compensation offered to the newspaper and/or raters. Portfolio performance is not a criterion, and voting is open to any readers of the newspaper.